This is the Utah Valley Technology and Genealogy Group. This is our monthly meeting for May 2025, and we're glad to have you with us. We'll begin with an opening prayer by Jerry Castillo.
Okay. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity to gather together and to learn more about how we can improve our searches for knowledge about our families, and grateful for the new tools that are being developed for this purpose and the use. We ask for a blessing upon our presenter today. May she speak her mind and speak her thoughts about this topic and express to us those things that she would have us learn. And this we ask humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And hello, I am Laurie Werner Castillo. I'm the Vice President of the Utah Valley Technology and Genealogy Group, and my husband Jerry is the one who gave us the opening prayer, and he is broadcasting the meeting for us today. I just wanted to remind you that this is one of those times of the year when there are deals available on DNA testing, genealogy software and subscriptions, and more. Makes a great last minute gift if you've neglected someone special. So keep an eye out. Visit the various websites that do those kind of sales and things. Also keep an eye out around Memorial Day and Father's Day as well. Some websites have opportunities to use some of their pay databases for free of charge at these special times of the year as well. We're appreciative today to have our main speaker, Kristilee J. Manuel, on Finagling sources from FamilySearch beta full text collections. This is just one of the most delicious things that's ever happened on FamilySearch. And so I'm excited for all of you to find out more about it today, and I'm excited to learn how to use it better. So what are we talking about? Remember this, we just said this was a beta. It says, doesn't beta mean that something isn't ready for prime time? Not when considering FamilySearch's beta full text collections. Make the most of your research time by discovering documents tied to your ancestors that were previously very difficult to find without the help of AI, combined with the OCR technologies. This presentation will give you the opportunity to make discoveries in these exciting new collections by sharing strategies, outlining search steps, and providing the inside scoop on how to minimize the beta and maximize results. So just a little bit about Kristilee, who's here with us today. She's authored the textbook Introduction to Genealogy, a Modern Family History Methodology. This year, she was a presenter at Roots Tech, and she previously taught at the BYU Women's Conference and served as a FamilySearch Center director. Kristilee designed genealogical tools and created content for Brigham Young University's family history workshops, and recently collaborated with the Chinese National Park Service to develop a family history certification program for teens. I think that what many people don't realize is that besides the BYU Family History Center, which is in the Lee Library, there is the FamilySearch Center that's in the next building over, and that they have a lot of things going. The general public doesn't go there to do research, but you can access a lot of what they're doing on the web. So do that. I've been doing it for years. They have great things up there, a lot of helps for genealogy, and you can search the projects that they're working on there. So without any further ado, as we like to say, here's Kristilee, and we're thankful to have you here. Thank you very much. Take it away.
Thank you for that. I'm going to share my screen, I hope. Are we sharing?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So I'm so excited that you brought up the Center for Genealogy and Family History at BYU, because I am currently a BYU student. I'm graduating in December, and I'm involved in a lot of their projects. And I'm going to talk about some of those things, some of those projects tied to the center today. So that was really great. So FamilySearch is merging AI and optical character recognition, or OCR technologies, to take their image-only records that have basically been unusable and create experimental lab collections that allow researchers access to information and documents that has never been convenient to search before. When I started using this experiment, all that it had were the US land records. And even with just that, I was stunned at the power of this research tool. Since then, FamilySearch has added records from around the world, and the collections are growing every day. So a couple of years ago, I had a student job as a TA, and I was given a student who is from the Philippines and was really struggling with research in the History 205 class, which is BYU's Introduction to Genealogy class. So she just hadn't had a lot of success doing things in the traditional manner. So the solution at that time, that's just 2 years ago, was that I sat down with her and we identified image-only collections tied to the area where her family was from in the Philippines. And then I told her, I know it's a sacrifice, but I just want you to do whatever it takes to get through this set of records. We strategized which one would be the most likely, and there were about 800 images in that file. And she was like, there's no way I'm going through these. But I showed her how the records are set in a certain format, and she could scan through the sides of each record to see who the baby was that was christened, the bride and groom was. These were Catholic Church records. And I made her commit to going through that entire set of records. Well, I sat in the lab with her, and it took her 3 hours to go all through them. But as the time went, she didn't want to stop, because she was finding more and more members of her family, including her great-grandmother's record. She was hooked on genealogy after that, and has been, even though she is a business major, she did an internship and project with FamilySearch this last semester, and she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life, but she knows she wants to do something with genealogy. So she continued with that type of research and ended up identifying 100 people for her family tree. So I share this experience to illustrate that there are many records that are online, but so time-consuming to access that it's difficult to find them. So even though all their microfilm has been digitized and much of them indexed, there are many documents held by FamilySearch that seem to be out of reach. FamilySearch has referred to them as, quote, hidden records. So they're saying these are open to research, but they're not accessible. This experiment we're going to go through today is how they're addressing that issue. So here's an example of an orphan record that I pulled from the full text search. And you can see that I've circled 2 of the names that are on this document. So there are 6 of these entries on this page, and this is in 1720. And this is a collection of hundreds of images. None of them have been indexed. So just looking at the complexity of the record, the handwriting, how the names are not going to be showing up in the same place in each entry, kind of shows you why it's so important to have the AI and the OCR tools to help with these. If we were to send these out to be indexed, someone would have to figure out where the names were and pull them and identify them. And then all we would have at the end of the indexing is some names, some places, some dates. But having the full text makes the research just come alive and gives us so many more options for how we can use these kind of records. So much of my formal training as a BYU student in family history has actually been training as a historian. So historians look at events, places, and dates, but as genealogists, we tend to focus more on people and relationships. Combining both these approaches can make us much better researchers, and the full text beta collections are an excellent example of why that is true. So we're going to look at some examples to kind of communicate what I'm trying to illustrate for you. So consider what would happen if you were looking at a project researching Mexico. You would want to identify and track a family, so our methodology recommends you turn to census records. Well, Mexico does have census records back to colonial times, but they are not open to research. This has formerly been a tremendous brick wall for researching in Mexico. It's frustrating to know that they have the records, but we can't access them. Going back through history, Mexico belonged to Spain, and the records are based on civil law. This means that when important events happen, the documents required notarization. Even though we cannot trace the research family through census records, notarizations are found on property documents, wills, and other records that can reveal the movement of the family and provide a peek into the story of their lives. So what you're seeing in front of you right now is an example of one of these notarized collection records that is probate records from 1767. So this shows you what happens when you do one of these beta searching. I just wanted you to kind of see the layout and how it works. So you'll see there at the top, we have the usual FamilySearch menu with all of those things. I hope you can see my dot as I'm showing you. And then we have a collection name, a number, and an item number. As these collections are going through this process, I don't think that when they are eventually launched on the full FamilySearch site, not being beta anymore, that they're going to have the same names. It's like these are kind of in flux. It's how they're dividing and sorting the records and putting these collections together. You can see that this is image 211 of 279. So imagine if you were reading 279 of these documents, and this is just a portion of a page. It's very difficult because of the language, because of the handwriting. This one's actually pretty good, which is why I pulled it. But you can see that the search term that I used was Vito Gonzalez, and it's highlighted here. What's really great is off to the right, you see this transcription. Even though I don't speak Spanish, this transcription is so helpful to me. They do highlight where the search term came in, but I'm also seeing every single word that's listed on this record. So even if I didn't know the exact thing that in my search term put the exact thing, there might be other things that come up in this record that would be very helpful to me. Because when we do a search on index records, maybe only the names and the dates and the places are indexed. But when we do full text beta, every single word that the computer can read is part of that transcript. So it really, language doesn't matter in identifying the right record, because if you find something with the right name in the right place at the right time, then you can do translation. So translation is a topic for another day, but the technology tools that we have for that are amazing. So genealogists really don't have to speak the language that the records are in to make use of them. So here's a land record also for the Gonzalez family from the same period in Mexico. You can see again this image number 410 of 836, and just look at this text. If you had to read through 836 pages of this, you would not be able to take the time to be able to find the record that you were looking for. And that's kind of the point of all of this. They were previously like, remember Mia, how she went through all 800 records? It was a situation like this. They're just very difficult to read and hard to find unless you make that dedicated effort like I forced her to do. It's just people aren't going to do it. And so this is such an important tool. You can see how if you could get a number of these records, you would be able to track the one family just as easily as you could with the census. So let's look at some records in English so you can get a feel for how the transcription goes. As I mentioned, when I first tried the experiment, it was only in US land records. I did 2 search sessions, one for my grandfather and one for my great-grandfather, and I was shocked. I had identified dozens of records tied to my family going back from 1848 to 1992 when my grandparents purchased their burial plots at East Lawn Cemetery here in Provo. So this is one Utah County record that I found. Look at the transcription. The document is kind of set up in chart format because these are county deeds from the recorder's office. And so you can kind of see in that transcript how the computer interpreted the chart. The names and addresses, etc., are pretty clear, but then there are little gaps, little symbols and things. And I wanted you to see that so you can kind of get a sense of why this is still beta. This is how the computer interpreted the way that this chart is laid out. But like you saw with the Mexican records, not all records are laid out in chart format. Sometimes they're in paragraph format. This is one of the real strengths of this technology, is because it doesn't matter the format of the document. The computer is going to interpret it and try to get it into something that we can use, that can be searched, and that can be useful for genealogy. So what about something that is not in chart form like this? This is a 1792 will. It's the will of James McDonough. The handwriting is pretty good, and I chose this one because I want you to look at the words on the document compared to the full transcript on the right. And I can tell you, when I first started using this collection, these transcripts were not as good as they are now. The more people use this collection, the smarter it gets, the better the transcripts are getting, the more that FamilySearch is working with it. It's just improving and getting better and better all the time. But this is just an example where you can see, like, you can literally read the full transcript and it's telling you what is on the handwriting. So now that you've kind of seen a sample of what you can find in the beta full text, I want to switch to a live demo so that you can see how to access the collection. If you'd like to, you could use a device, even your phone, tablet, or you could open up another window so you could follow the steps. And I highly encourage that participation so that you can not just hear or see how to do it, but actually have that muscle memory and go ahead and access these today. Let me switch over. I hope you're seeing that FamilySearch page now. If you're not, please someone tell me. But here we are logging into FamilySearch just as we always do. And I'm going to go ahead and do all the steps so that you can see it and just do it along with me. I don't want to rush in front of anyone. So I just logged into FamilySearch and it's pulling up the page that comes in after you log in. And they've had you access the experiments different ways, but right now it's really easy to find. So once this page pulls up, I'm going to scroll down until I see this FamilySearch Labs logo. It's a turquoise rectangle with a woman in an orange shirt behind a laptop. And it says FamilySearch Labs above, and then right below, we click on View Experiments. That's going to open up all of the experiments that are in the lab. They are exciting, and there's lots of fun things in here. But what we're going to do is scroll down looking for the full text beta search. So here on the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see that expand your search with full text. You may need to turn on the experiment the first time that you use it, but once it's on, you'll see what I'm seeing here, where you can just go to experiment. But if you're doing this live, go ahead, turn that on, open it up, access it, and then we're going to go to experiment. So this is the general search that comes up when you enter into this part of the website. You see they have a big warning sign right there for you. This is an experimental labs product and is not guaranteed to always be available. So just know that there are times when it isn't available. There are times it's beta, so sometimes the results you get one day may not be the results you get the next. We'll hope for this presentation that the same results that I planned come up, but I don't know that that's true. I'm taking a risk here for you to show you how it all works, but that's part of it being beta. So I would say the number one thing is patience, because it's beta, and kind of excitement to be part of the experiment and to be part of helping it get better and to be able to use it before it's just out there on the main website. So let's start by talking about this full text search. If we were in the main part of the FamilySearch website and we went to search records, the first thing that I would tell you is to never, never, never use the general search, because we like to go directly to our collections and not get 20,000 results. And we like to be smart and targeted about our searches, especially at the beginning of our projects. But this is beta, and so it's different. So this full text search box is going to be where we really want to do our searches. I'm going to give you just a few tips that I've learned from using this collection. The first one is it's really tempting to go directly for the name and put your ancestor's name into it, but I would encourage you not to do that. My experience shows that the keyword search field actually does a much better job. So sometimes I'll go back and do an extra search using the name in the name field, because it does pull up different results. That's one thing about the beta. It doesn't necessarily prioritize the results the way that you would expect them to be. And so when we are in the main family search area and we're searching records, we might get those 20,000 results, but we're pretty sure that it prioritizes them. So the first couple of pages is where we're going to find what we're looking for. That's not necessarily true with the beta search. Previously, I would tell people to look at 8 pages of results before they feel like they had everything, but it's actually gotten better. So I would just say, look through quite a few results, or you might miss something when you're doing these searches. So start by using the keywords field instead of the name field. And then if you wanted to follow up and do a search with the name field because you didn't find what you were looking for, then go ahead and try that. Places wasn't great before, but it is getting better. So feel free to use that and put things in place. Um, I I was putting the place in with the keywords, just putting a comma and then the place, and I still lean towards doing that more. But the place field is getting better and better, and it's only going to get better if we use it. So maybe think about doing both of those. So an ancestor's name or a keyword, comma, the place up there in the keyword field. The year range can be helpful, but try it wide, a wide range, and try a narrow range and see how the results are different. A lot of things about working this collection are just about playing with it. The year range is also improving, and I wouldn't say that it's useless the way that I would have told you a couple of months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, I would have said, don't even use that. But now I'm seeing that it's doing better and it's getting better results. So here are some tips for using this collection. If your document doesn't pull up as quickly as you would like it to, don't sit waiting for 2 minutes. Use your refresh on your browser. That little circle with the arrow, that's going to be helpful for some reason, especially if they seem to be like working on the system and it just doesn't seem to be working quickly or efficiently. I find that if I just refresh, it goes a lot faster, and I just have to be really patient because this is beta. So I enjoy paleography, but if you don't, there are tools to help improve the transcription, that little thing we saw on the right side. There's a program called Transcribus. I used it for a BYU project a couple of semesters ago. It reads line by line, just the way that FamilySearch is using a character recognition and in their project. But I think that you could take the document and run it through Transcribus, and it does line by line and can check the accuracy of the transcription. And then it could also maybe pull out more information. Some of those things that FamilySearch's tool sees as symbols and stuff, the other search engine might actually be able to read the letters. One might be better than the other sometimes. If you want to go through that process, you can. I've read online that some other genealogists are using ChatGTP or other AI interfaces to help make the transcriptions more accurate. I have not done this because I like to read the documents, but others say that they copied the transcription and pasted it into AI, and it edits it to make it make more sense. You just want to double check and make sure that what it edits it to is actually what the document was saying. So stick to your own interpretation first, but those might be helpful exercises. Also, use your Boolean search tricks. They've listed some of them here because it's so important. So if I scroll down and other places on this in this website portion of the website, you're going to see these advanced search tips. That's what it's talking about. So use quotation marks, use the plus symbol, use the minus symbol, use the question marks, use the asterisk, like use these tools to help you narrow down your results and find what you're looking for. Because when we're doing full text search, it could be any word within the document, not just the names. And so that's like a blessing and a curse in some ways. So you need to play with it and see what you can do. So I just search in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to demonstrate some searches to give you an idea about how this experiment could help your research. I'd love it if you use your device and do some searches at the same time. And if we could find things during this presentation, that would be epic. I'd really like that. So you can follow along with me and do the same searches that I do, or you can go ahead and use the steps that I'm demonstrating to find records about your own ancestors. But we have planned a Q&A after my presentation. And if that was filled with you sharing your discoveries from today, that would be my favorite thing that could happen. Okay, this is a very powerful tool, and I'm really hoping we have success here. So here I am. I'm in the keywords field, and I'm putting in Frederick William Webb. And I'm just putting it this way without the quotes to see what happens. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the place field, England, United Kingdom. And let's see what happens. So here we find Frederick William Webb, and we're seeing directories, we're seeing genealogies, we're seeing military records, we're seeing more directories, more military records. We're seeing documents that if you were doing the regular family search, it wouldn't necessarily pull all these up together. And so you can kind of see that you're going to have a wide scope of types of records when you use this search. So that's just kind of like the most basic example of how you're going to do this search. So let's go back. And we're back to our search. And I'm going to give you another example. I'm going to put in quotes Seth Maynard. And I'm going to just search for him. So this is just the name. This could be my ancestor. And what I'm seeing as I look at the results is Massachusetts. We've got land records and deeds, which we expect to see in the US. We have a certain part of Massachusetts that these are focused in. But what if my Seth Maynard was not in Massachusetts and that's what it was pulling up? I can refine it by adding Virginia. And pushing search. And then I'm going to see more likely my people here in a deed book, here with listings, his wife. This is something in this collection that's really great because you see Seth Maynard highlighted and his wife Lucy in consideration. Because it's full text, you're getting all of that information. And so it's really helpful for being able to find the records. For example, in the land record that I showed you, well, I searched for my grandfather's name, but when I found him with my grandmother's name next to him, that's how I was able to quickly identify which 60 records were his land records, his probate, his things. So that's another thing that's really good about the search, the full text search. I'm kind of like going slow and keeping it very basic because I just want you to be able to have time to follow along with me. I know you're familiar with how to search records, but this is just like a tricky collection. And so you have to slow down and you have to go back to basics and you have to be patient with it. So step by step sometimes produces different results than if you had thrown everything into the search box the first time. So you saw how I took Seth Maynard first and just did really general. And then I refined it by putting Virginia. And then I could refine it farther by putting the year. I would do that and start wide and then narrow as you go and look at the results each time just so that you don't end up missing something. So try different variations of names and places. Remember that you need to be creative in these searches, and spelling wasn't standardized until just over 100 years ago, so keep an open mind. Okay, the main search is not the only way to search these records. So this is really important. Doing that main search is great, and I want you to do that, but it's not the only thing that you can do. Once you've done that, don't think that you found all the records. Here we go. So if you were to scroll down, you're going to see this find a collection. This is where you're going to be able to identify specific collections to search. Since the general search is so wide, just like we said, when we're in family search, we know this is true. We might get too many results or we might not get the specific results we're looking for. So after doing the general search, I would perform the same kind of search in certain collections. So if we go back to our project in Mexico and I type in Mexico, you're going to see here all the collections listed that apply to Mexico. And look how many they are. They go back to 1500s for Mexico. And you're going to be able to identify the place and the type of record you're looking for and zero into the time that you're looking for and search specific collections. The results that come up are different than the ones that I get when I do the main search, up a little bit higher. So I always make sure that I look at it both ways. I would definitely not rely on the general search. Maybe because it's beta or because it prioritizes the results in a different way. You'll just have better success if you try both. So let's look at another example. I'm going to put in New Zealand. Now this is a place that we sometimes struggle to find records about, especially I do a lot of research in Polynesia. These are oral history-based cultures, and they don't have as many documents. But if you look, you might be surprised at all the places that are included in this collection. So here we actually do have documents related to New Zealand, and you can see that it's not a small amount of collections tied to New Zealand. So think about the places that you want to research for your family and try and see what is available there. Let's look at another place where it might be language and other issues for finding records. Let's look at Japan. Japan has legal records going back to 1500s. They've got military service. They've got a few collections at least, which maybe people wouldn't have expected would be part of this. So this really is a place where you can find records from all over the world. Think about things a little differently. We love names and relationships, but places and terms can open a whole new way to research and identify documents. So I wanted to give you an example of one of those projects at BYU. They're working on a slave marriage database. So they're using the Freedmen's Bureau records and trying to make a searchable database of slave marriages. And they were using those Freedmen's Bureau's records and feeling like they were really getting something great going. And they are. It's amazing. But one of our students took a minute and went into this collection and searched putting the word slave in quote marks and marriage in quote marks. And then they put a comma and listed a county in North Carolina. The results that came up had a lot of the same marriages that were in the Freedmen's Bureau records, but also at least 50 other marriages of slaves that were not part of the Freedmen's Bureau's record, because it's searching full text. It's looking for any record that has the word slave and the word marriage in that county. And so a lot of those marriages were not recorded by the Freedmen's Bureau, but they were recorded in other records that are being scanned by this and read in full text. So that's an example of how you could be creative in your search. So I'm going to give you another example of that. And this is dear to my heart because I just finished my capstone project in anticipation of graduation. And what my paper and my research is about is how families in colonial and early America dealt with mental illness within their family members and how that changed as the culture changed after the Revolutionary War. Well, previously that would be a very difficult thing to research, but by using the power of this collection, I can research by topic instead of just putting in my ancestor's name. So here I am, like, I want to find out what happened with people who had mental health issues back in this time. So I'm going to put in in these searches, we use words that are offensive to our modern ears, words that we wouldn't usually say out loud, but we use them when we search because they were used as diagnosis or medical terms or legal terms back in the day when these documents were created. So we can't let our modern sensibilities affect how we're going to be searching. So I'm going to use the term idiot here, and I'm looking for people who are idiots in Connecticut. And I push the search, and then you'll see that these records come up. Here we have Elizabeth Cook, who is an idiot, but a landowner. Here we have Samuel Atwater. He is an idiot, weak in body, and incapable to support himself. This person's land is to be sold for his support. This person is paying for the care they've received from the people of the area. This person is being assigned a guardian. You see this one, Peter Davison, an idiot son of said Peter Davison. So we have Peter Davison Sr. and Jr. We're going to start finding genealogy and building families this way. And I was able to use this kind of search to build out to find families to focus on in my capstone project. And once I found them in court records, in probate records, in wills, in land records, I was able to do traditional genealogy and find out the connections and discover the story of this family and whether they institutionalized their family members, how they took care of them, how wealth was passed down, and I was able to write these family stories based on searching for things by term. So there are other things I want to show you just to get you thinking creatively about this. It's also possible to search an area or a region, town, province, place. And so let's just try one that's tied to my family history. I'm going to do this one in Italy. So I'm not searching for a specific person. I'm interested in this place. And when I search this, I'm surprised to find that there are gazetteers, maps, and other information about this place. So consider searching a place like that. How about if we try a topic? So a project that I'm working on in my student job at BYU is we're researching baptisms for the dead that took place outside of the temples. And we found them in the Mississippi River on both sides of the river in Illinois and in Iowa. We found them in the Missouri River. We found them in City Creek and Salt Lake. And we know that baptisms for the dead were performed in Kirtland, although we haven't identified the names of those people. That we're working on that. So, if we have like a time period and we have a topic and we have something we're interested in, these full text searches are going to look for keywords that will lead us to records that we might not have known. And we don't have to know the names of the people involved to be able to identify those records. So let's do a little example. I'm going to put another term some would say is offensive. And I'm going to put Mormon in here, and I'm going to put 1830 to 1880. I'm going to search for this. And then we're going to see coming up. Oh, that's not what I didn't put it in quotes. Let's do better and put it in quotes. That wasn't what I expected. So we're going to see these things come up that are going to kind of give us an idea about what was being written about that word during that time. We have newspapers coming up, and I've been seeing newspapers coming up in these searches a lot more frequently lately. I think that's one of the things they're working on and really pushing right now. I'm going to see, well, we just got lots of newspapers today. This looks different than the search did last night when I tried it. We see things tied to the church, of course, but we also see, look at this, military records, and we could see journals. We could see all kinds of things, history books. When I did it before, I found histories of certain towns. I found biographies. I found compiled sources that other genealogists have made. It's just a way to find things by topic that can help get your research going. Another thing I want to show you is that you can search by place that's more a specific place, like a school or a church. Let's say that I knew that my ancestor had been hospitalized, but I didn't know what hospitals were in that area at that time. I can put in Vancouver. Oh, wait, I can put in hospitals. I can put in hospital, and I can say Vancouver. And I'm going to take out the years, although you could leave them in to see when, and I'm going to search. And what I'm going to find is, using the full text, I could be able to identify the hospitals that were in Vancouver at the time when I'm looking. So here we have 1893 to 1925. I've got Trinity Hospital, Holy Family Hospital. As I scroll down, I've got City Hospital, St. Paul's, Provincial Mental Hospital, and the list goes on. So you can see how you can use this not just to search for people, but to search for places, to search for topics. I'm running out of time to tell you all the wonderful things that I wanted to tell you, but they were really more examples about how to think creatively. A few weeks ago, one of my neighbors came to me, and she said that she's a good genealogist. She worked at the BYU FamilySearch library in the Harold B. Lee Library for years. She knows what she's doing, but she came to me and she said, I have this family that's been a brick wall for me for decades. We've never been able to crack this. And I wondered if you could give me any ideas about it. So I had her pull out her phone, and I had her log in and open up the full text search. And I just left her with it while I went to talk to someone else for less than 5 minutes. And when I came back, she had found a land record that showed the three brothers that she was looking for, inheriting land from their father. I believe it was inheriting, and the deed getting put in their names. This document showed the three brothers all together, that they were different people, that they had the names that she thought they did, but she never had proof about. And this is something that happened within 5 minutes of opening up the beta full text search. So I would suggest at a minimum that you try to use this experiment for each of your research projects near the beginning and then at the end of your research. I check it every once in a while for each person as I go through. It's easier to identify applicable results once you know more about the family. So doing so as a follow-up is really vital, because you'll see more records that you didn't recognize were tied to that family before, and you'll recognize them after you know a little bit more about them. Besides your understanding helping to identify documents that you previously overlooked, the records are changing quickly. More are added every day, so there can be more discoveries even if not a lot of time has passed since your initial search. I'm going to switch back over to the other screen. I'm going to try to switch back over to the other screen. Let's see if I can do it. I've lost my bar. Oh, here we go. Okay. I hope you're seeing that. I wanted to share this quote with you before we open it up for questions. I just really like this idea and this idea of thinking creatively. Research is seeing what everybody else has seen and thinking what nobody else has thought. And this tool allows us to look at records in new ways, to find them in new ways, to be creative and look for topics and places instead of just for people and relationships, although we can do that too. And I just hope that you're going to be able to find your family and see what a powerful tool this is. Thank you so much for staying to listen to the presentation.
Hello, Kristi.
Yep, I'm not sure how to stop sharing.
Oh, that's okay. What I was going to say was because we started late, you can go ahead and, we still have the full hour. So starting
Oh,
from when
okay.
we started, if you want to show more examples or something like that. But while
Um,
you're,
let's see. I would love to just share one more example,
oh,
if
please
that's
do.
okay. All right. Should I switch my screen or leave it like this? What would you like me to do? I'm I'm not
What,
sure what you're seeing. Are you seeing the quote?
yeah, we're seeing the quote.
Okay, I'll just leave it on that. So I didn't know if I would have time to share this, but I'm really excited that I can. Um, because the search engine just is reading the entire text, certain index items will come up in a regular search, but these results go beyond what we expect. So this is an important advantage because the computer can use these collections to identify ties that we wouldn't be able to see in normal searches. The computer kind of helps us go beyond and reads all these documents at once and then brings them together. It would take us so long to do that. So where I really saw the results of this is in a Carbon County projects that I've worked on in African American research class last semester. So there was a lynching in Carbon County in 1925. My professor took the 1920 census and the 1930 census, and he wanted to see how many people of African American descent were on the census there in 1920, but left after this lynching and were not there in 1930. And then each student was assigned to track one of these families and to see how far back we could take them. So that was a semester project that I had. So I looked at this African-American family that was in Carbon County. The father worked in the mines. They had several children, and my job was to track them. Well, every time I came to kind of a brick wall, I turned to the full text beta search, and it would just open things up, and it would just pull things that I had no idea about that went together, and made tracking this family so much easier than it would have been. So the end result of my project, which actually he's asked me to continue in another class in the fall, is that I was able to identify this family from the 1820s when they were slaves living in Kentucky. following them as they moved to different states, Missouri, Montana, Utah, Wyoming, California, Ohio. Um, I tracked the next two generations. So I ended up with three generations of this family spanning from the 1820s in slavery up to 1990s. And this family went from slavery to one of their granddaughters being the first African American to graduate from the University of Wyoming. And she became a professor in the San Francisco Bay Area at a university there. So by using this tool, every time I kind of came up against something, I was able to create this grand story that shows a family's American dream to go from slavery to going to being a college professor in three generations. And so that's just a really an example that's dear to my heart, showing that I use traditional research, but then because of this tool, I was able to expand this project. And in the time that I had, just one semester, go far beyond what we would have thought I would be able to do. And so that's just something that I'm starting to incorporate, this kind of search and using this tool in all of my research, because it is faster, it's more effective, and it helps me to find things that no one's been able to recognize and put together before. Thank you so much. Are there any questions?
Well, I would just like to report my success here.
Yes, that's what I want. That's perfect.
I was able to, using some of your tips there, I was able to root out my relative George K. Copeland, who he died in New York City, and then his family moved to New Jersey. But I found his obituary here, and it talks about the union that he worked for. My family were printers in New York. Part of my family were printers in New York City, and so I know he was in the same printers union as his older brother, and it also gives the number of the lodge of the Oddfellows that he was in, things like that I can follow up. And when I was researching his brother, I actually just put in that the name of his the typographical union, the name of it, and I put it in, and I actually figured out that those records are sitting at the New York Public Library. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
so
So
yeah,
this is such a great example of how this goes beyond finding names and dates. Like we're talking about tying in topics. We're talking about learning about more than just birth, marriage, death, but learning about the details of these people's lives through these collections.
yeah. What I learned about his brother, which was the fact that his brother was a Mason as well, and it when I found his obituary, it said that he when you're a Mason, they a lot of times they're the ones who sponsor and do your funeral, and they also have a separate funeral service they do with the Masonic. They have their own. What am I trying to say? Their own service that they do, and so I was able to find out where he attended, what the name of his group was, and that and they put out an invitation to his service, and they also mentioned his typographical union that he belonged to in. And see, a lot of times printers, I've done research on this, a lot of times printers died younger because the chemicals that they were exposed to were incredibly toxic. And so his older brother had died fairly young, and he's not super old either when he dies. So for me, to understand that they were printers explained what the probability of that being caused by their occupation was. And when the family moved to New Jersey, their offspring didn't follow the printer's tools, and so a lot of them lived longer. So it's kind
That's
of,
so great. I'm really happy that you had results while you were working in that. It's good.
yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, we have some comments on the Facebook page.
Okay.
The last one asks, how do you search Eastern Europe as areas change to different countries? I guess they're talking about how boundaries and names have changed.
Yes.
Can you just put Eastern Europe in the name and get the name in all countries is encompassed if we don't have the years? Is also a
So
question.
this is a great question. I was actually dealing with this last night. So, those countries along the border of the Soviet Union, it's hard to find records about them. So what I would recommend, these records, if you look in the collections, you're not going to find a whole collection about most of those places, but you'll find that as those borders change, the records are mixed in different areas. So I would look for whatever place you can get as specific as possible and use that in your keyword instead of in the place search. If you actually know a city, if you something like that, get it smaller. But then the second thing to do would be to use the term that was used at the time of the records that you're seeking. So, like I used the word idiot, or I could have used insane. These were medical terms at that time, and they were used as legal terms as well. So by using those terms, I pull up court documents and other things. So using that same strategy, you should be able to think about what was this place called at the time where I want to find these records, and try all those terms that you can think of for that. That's my best advice for that.
All right, thank you. We have one person said that they first heard about this full text search a couple of weeks ago, and on her first search looking for a marriage record for her third great grandmother, she actually found it on the first try. So,
That's amazing. I love hearing that. Thank you.
Yeah.
okay. And let's see. Someone else commented that this was very exciting information. And let's see. I don't think there's any other specific question
Okay.
other than that. But yeah, lots of compliments on your presentation. Great.
Well,
Thank you.
my husband here, of course, is Hispanic. He's a third generation Texan, but they go back to Mexico and other places. And so I don't think he's tried this yet on his family. What would his best method? We know some of the places they were from, but not all of them. What would his best methodology for searching the family be?
So this is something a couple of years ago, like at the time I was helping the girl from the Philippines, I was working as head TA. It was my student job. And so whenever we had a hard case, it got sent to me. So I had several people who were searching in Mexico and just struggling. Um, and so this has really opened things up and made it awesome. But for Mexico, we've had the best results. If you happen to know the name of one of your ancestors, to use the actual name and put it in quotes and see if it's going to pull up those land records, probate records. Even some like marriages and births have notarization records if they're far back. And so for Mexico, I would recommend that the name is your best clue. But if you don't have that, you can start going in by place. It's just a little bit harder. The thing is that in Mexico, it's possible, and it kind of wasn't before. And so think about what kind of records would be notarized, what kind of information for your family would be on those records. Another way that we found success for Mexican records is by identifying the ranch that was owned by a family. Once we knew what that was called, an example would be a ranch called the Trap. Once we could search for that term, the land records tied to that came up, because there will be like deeds and things that mention neighbors or neighboring farms or things like that, where something that, even though it's not a direct record of your ancestor, it was something where their neighbor was defining their property or talking about something that happened, and the property of from next door was named, or the neighbor was named. So even though it might not directly relate, it can teach you a lot about your family. And once, just take every little clue that you possibly have and run it through this and combine them and uncombine them, looking for it. This is kind of searching the full beta text search is something that my husband and I have agreed. I put a time limit. I say, I'm going to go looking for this and I'm going to spend 30 minutes, or I'm going to spend an hour, or whatever it is. And I try everything I can during that time and see what I come up with, because you can really go down a lot of rabbit holes with this. So that's just my personal experience.
One of our earlier commenters came back and she said she just found her Norwegian great-grandfather's land record in North Dakota.
Oh, awesome. I also have I have
Cool.
Norwegian records in North Dakota as well.
Cool.
That's so great. I'm really happy to hear that people are having successes.
I
Keep
had
them
a I
coming.
had I had a professor at BYU. He's now deceased, but he's Armenian and his wife was Norwegian, and he said they had Norwegian kids.
That's awesome. That's so great. Yeah, you and just thinking about like the ties to different places, the areas that are covered by these records are really exciting and they're always adding new ones. There's a lot in India, but I think a good portion of it is kind of military English records, but also there are records for people in India. And sometimes you find in the Asian countries, you find records, but it won't necessarily be under find a collection, but they people will be mentioned, things will happen. So it's just because they're adding things every day, you don't know where these collections will take you. So just keep trying, keep looking, refer back every couple of weeks or so and see what has been added.
Well, I think this is exciting. I'm I'm looking forward to putting a lot more time in on it. And
Great. Well, I
yeah,
did include a handout for this session, and it has my contact information there. I'd love to hear about your successes and help in any way that I could. So,
so
Yes, I posted that handout to the Facebook page chat as well as in our own Zoom
Zoom
meeting
good.
here
chat.
chat. So
Very good. And we will what will happen is next month when our newsletter comes out, there'll be a synopsis of your talk today in there, and we'll put your information in there too. So if
Oh, excellent. That's great. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
you yeah, and I just only did one or two searches to find what I found here today, so I know. So I'm looking forward to. One thing I did notice is that you cannot use the asterisk. You can't do any letter replacement on a search yet. So
Oh, that
wild
might be
card.
true. I never, yeah, the wild card.
yeah,
I
it brought it up. It brought up a box and told me, hey, you can't do that. So
okay. Yeah.
that's why I know
I
it's
like
true.
I work through those kinds of searches and that's usually my last one. And I can't even think that I've gotten that far because I always find things before I get to that. So,
Well, the search I did today was the one I told you about my success part. My family was named Copeland, and the true spelling of Copeland for us is Coplan. But when this wing of the family that's in New York City, they actually got clear out to the West Coast and then took a boat down to Panama, did the crossing, and went up the East Coast and settled in New York City for reasons I don't really know. But he must have gotten a job offer because he was in printing in San Francisco before he left for New York City. But so so I was what when he got to New York City, the name seems to have picked up an E, the Copelan.
mhm.
And then there's also people who are recording it who think it's with the one with the D at the end, Copeland with the D. But Copeland
Yes,
is also spelled with a Lin as well in some places. And so I usually use those stars, those asterisks to compensate for the spelling variations. So what this told me is at this very moment in time, I just need to do the search over with the different possible spellings. Just thought
correct.
everybody might want to know that at this point in time, that's what you have to do to make sure you're not missing anything. So I'm going to go back and research some of the searches I've done previously, and I don't remember getting that message before. So maybe they just realized they needed to put it up. So
Yeah, because I feel like I did use them before when I was searching with it, but I'm not sure that I did. And this is a really good point about this collection. It's because of being beta. I do searches over and over and in a different way and try it this way and that and just put on some music or something and set an amount of time and just make it a game. How many different ways can I look at this? But you just have so much success with this. It's worth doing that.
It
That
is.
takes so much less time than reading all of those image only records would have taken.
Oh my, that's true. This is an amazing time to be a genealogist.
It really is. This is really a game changer.
Everybody ought to be trying all the people they've, dead ended on or whatever, and
Yes.
seeing what more. But also just anybody you've researched, because I've sprouted up way more things than I ever knew about. One of my Copeland ancestors in California actually came to Utah, but I did not know that he'd made a stop in between in Nevada and had some business dealings. And I'm finding all kinds of things about this Nevada episode that nobody else in the family knows about yet. So,
Oh, that's wonderful.
We've had several compliments in our chat here on Facebook, and I've pasted them into the chat here in Zoom if you'd like to look at those
Oh,
after
thank
the
you so
meeting.
much.
You bet. Okay, well,
oh, very good. Well,
very
thank you so
good.
much. We really appreciate you coming today. I know I do. I knew there was much more to it, that um, there must be much more to this thing. And so now I'm glad to know about looking for collections and searching in different ways, and on things besides names and things like that. So I really appreciate that a lot. And so
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you more often now that I know that this is a possibility.
yes, we'd love to have you back and join with us anytime. Because of being a speaker for us today, you now have a free year's membership. So you'll be getting our newsletters, and
I'm
I
really excited about that. I want to really interact and get involved with this. It's excellent.
so that is just to point out to anybody else who thinks they might have something to share with us, and that you can feel free to contact us on our UV tag address and let us know, and join with us every time, because you will be finding more helpful information to improve your genealogy research. I'll be the speaker next month, and my topic is going to be about researching places that don't exist anymore. So we invite you for that, and we're so thankful for Kristilee being with us today. And with that, we'll end our meeting.
Thank you so much.